Hi, this is Maggie, and we are working in our November-December challenge of making an in-the-hoop basket. This particular video, we're concentrating on silver, but for those of you with higher levels of the software, even those of you with platinum, and earlier versions where maybe it was True Embroidery 3 or Light, or Premiere Plus 2 Ultra, there will still be things in here you might not have thought about doing. So you may just want to hang in here and watch this one and see if I can't give you a few ideas. So first thing, I'm opening the embroidery module. I'll turn that off. And the thing to know is that I am working on a Mac, and if you have a PC, your commands are the exact same. They are just in a different place on your screen, and if you have any trouble finding them, just come into our Facebook group and we'll give you a screenshot. So what I am doing is I'm opening the embroidery module blank project, and I click next. Now what I have done here, and I'll do it again so you can see right now, for those of you in millimeters, you'll notice it's 177.8 and 127. What I did is, rather than choosing a hoop up here, I've chosen enter hoop size, and I'm doing 7-inch, oops, sorry about that, by 5-inch, and you'll see I've entered the double quote symbol to be inches, and when I hit enter, it changes it to millimeters for me. And 5 by 7 is the size of the rectangle for the front and the back of the basket. So what we will be doing is doing each of the squares or rectangles separately and putting them together, copying and pasting them together in a larger hoop at the end to end up with the one stitch out for the in the hoop basket. So this is the 5 by 7, this is the front and the back piece. Okay, I'm back, and I am in 3D mode because I like for you to be able to see the hoop. I did want to go back to my little picture here and show you that you do need to watch the 2 previous videos for more information, simply because I talk about the size of the rectangles and how we're putting it together, and some of this stuff I am not going to redo. You do need to watch the earlier videos. Okie dokie. Now, for those of you with higher levels of software and those of you with Premiere Plus 2 and True Embroidery, you have these choices. You have Encore and Letter and Super Designs and Frames. And within these, you can actually do quite a bit if you are interested in quilting rectangles. Now this, as I said, is the 5 by 7 hoop. And if I go into frames and I click a frame, and maybe I just want an outside border, I can click running stitch, and you'll see here it says running stitch, and there's the symbol. And I can change the margin to 1 millimeter and make my corners square. And when there isn't a design, when there is a design in your hoop, your frame will go on the outside of the design as far away as you say. If there is nothing in the hoop, your design will come in from the outside edge by 1 millimeter. So watch this, there you go. See, it's just a line right outside the edge of the rectangle. And this is how we can create all of our rectangles. Now, if I don't have a frame in the hoop, I'm going to undo this, and I want to create quilting using a motif line, I can say come in, and since this is 177, I can say come in by 55 millimeters, so I can get right down here and I can pick a motif line. Now I've set motif line here, I have to pick it here, and I'm going to say ungroup because I want to be able to move things apart. I pick motif line, and this is where you can start to play. You can choose any of the different motifs. Your guides have pictures of all of them, and sometimes I find it easier rather than going through the Pfaff and the Husqvarna Viking and the ones I've made and Universal, although mine aren't in their guides, to go ahead and look at the guides and see what's there. Now, just as an example, we'll show you this general motif 9, a little bit of a feather stitch there. It's not the best one for quilting, but it's not bad. And looks like I have to reset this to come in 55, and I've got square corners, and oops, it needs to be 50. When I was testing this out, I did 50, and as I'm talking, I thought I'd go a little further. So I have this here. Now, once I have something in the hoop, every frame I put in will be to frame around that image. So now I can say, oh, I want these maybe 8 millimeters apart, and I can put another one in, and I can apply another one, and another one, and another one. And now I have filled up my hoop with what would be quilting. And again, I'm going to hit Command Z or undo. It's Control Z on, well, I'm not sure if a PC does the Z commands, but you do have undo and redo. But let's create a different motif line, because maybe you'd like the hearts or something else. If you do hearts as quilting, and click OK, change this to 50 so we have a little box in the center, and there you go. And now we can say, as I said, change this to 8, or maybe you want it 10, see how they look, and you can experiment, and you can say, is this a quilting I like? Now you can click your rectangle, Option Shift, and bring it in a little bit, because otherwise it's going to say it's outside the hoop. They're not even now, but you should know that you can move by clicking on them. You can move each one a little bit. I wouldn't do it a lot, because resize, there we go. I would do it under resize. Click resize so you have blue corners, and that way your stitches won't be too tight. But this will give you an overall rectangle of quilting. And I want you to come in and play with that, and play with the motifs, and look at the motifs. And I am going to want to see in the Facebook group what kind of motifs you guys put together for quilting. Now I can hit Command A or Control A. That does work on a PC. And my FN delete, if I don't have an extended keyboard, but delete, to start over. And another way to get quilting is to do lines. Maybe you like straight lines back and forth across, and you'll recall the hoop size, and you can always go check. It was 177.8, so I can say I want 176 to almost go all the way across, and I am going to get a line of motifs that go across my hoop. And I clicked on motif, and now I get to choose. And I like things to be a bit bigger if I'm quilting. So I like the Maxi Art Stitches. And I think this number 13 in Pfaff Maxi Art Stitches looks really nice. And I click OK. And I don't have group selected. So I've got the 170, and I hit apply. And now if I want this to be quilting, I can take it down. It doesn't have to go all the way to the bottom. There'll be a seam there for the back. And I can do Command Copy is Command C, and Command V is Paste. And it's Control C and Control V. Now you could put them right on top of each other, or you can leave them a little bit apart. I like them a little bit apart because you'll notice on the sides they're a little bit apart. And then they do touch there, but I kind of like, I don't know, I like the imagery of a little bit apart. I've tried them both ways. And I can hit Control Paste again, Control V, and line it up. And now I have a little bit that's not quilted at the top, but if I do Command L for length, I can see that's about a little bit more than a ½ inch. And I am going to be doing that at the top of the rectangles because I have the lining edge that I flip over, if you look at the picture. So to me, that's okay. And I have this. Now the thing is, I should have started earlier because I'm going to undo these again. Command A and delete. So, well, let's see, let's go back here. With the 176, you can play in your hoop and try all different kinds. You know, I actually love this leaf, and I've used it a lot for a lot of different things. And you'll see if it's the same color as your background, if you're doing a solid color background, it does make a nice quilting design. So you can come in and play with any of the motifs in the system at all to see what you like for quilting. Now, for making the basket, if we go to rectangle and we go to running stitch and we go back to that 1 millimeter running stitch with square corners and hit apply, we have the stitching around the outside of our box. So this is what you would do as you're creating your steps for your in the hoop, or this is how I'm having you do it. There are different ways to do it. I have one more I'll cover. I'm giving you a lot of choices to play with. But this one, if you want steps to follow, this one will work, okay? So we did the running stitch around the edge. Now we're going to motifs, and I'm going back to the FAF Maxi Art Stitches, the one I like, 13. I'm going to do the same thing I did before. The only thing that's different is I have the line around the outside edge that I like. So I'm going to put 3 of these in, kind of bring it up. It can be a little bit up from the bottom because it doesn't. Paste. So Command V, paste. And there I go. And now this is one block of what you need for the basket. It is the front and the back. Because this is a running stitch, I didn't do double stitch or triple stitch. It's a simple running stitch. If you want a design, you can stitch right on top of it. If you're making this the same color as your background, you can stitch right on top and it will not affect your design. Now the only thing I would do is I would move this down because I want the rectangle to stitch. And then, let's see, I want the center to stitch next, so I can move this. See, I'm over in the film strip, and you can change the order of things. You can just drag them, so I can just drag this up until I see a line right there, because I can say, oh, I want 2 to go next, or I can use these arrows at the bottom to move them up and down. And what I did is I said I want the outside edge to stitch, but then I want the center to stitch first. Well, let's see. I want the center to stitch first and then the outsides, but because it's quilting, it's probably going to be fine. Do I want to do 1, 2, 3? I don't know if I see which is the start and end, because what's going to happen is we will have a running stitch from the bottom up to the top. So you can't see start and end stitch, but what you can do, let's see, if we hit preview, you can watch that way and see the It's going to do the bottom, but then it comes back. So what we can do, you'll notice that ends there and then it starts and ends, because that's how your motif will always stitch, left to right. And what we can do is find this center bit, which is this one. And see this little symbol here? We can flip him. And now, you see that? Stitch the outside, stitch the bottom, and then it won't flip all the way back. And this is a smoother way for your stitch out. Now I won't be showing you this on the sides. So when you do the sides, remember to flip the inside bit. Maybe I'll put a little sign in the middle of the video, but I do hate going over some of these directions over and over and over and over. So again, this little arrow on the end of your box lets you flip things. And when you're working, if especially, you can choose to go back and forth, and that will help have an easier, smoother stitch out. You know how when your machine moves from here to there and there, sometimes it pulls on those bobbin threads when it travels. So the less it travels, the better in a way. This is basket, front, and back. And I'm going to put it on my desktop so I have the pieces handy to show you how to paste them all together. So now we've got the front and back done. And I have my little basket thing here, and I know I need sides that are 5 by 3.5. So next we could do the sides, and it would be the same thing as this. We'll go File, oops, have to click on my Sew Net Embroidery, File, New, Blank Project. And this one is 3.5 inches wide. And it's the same height because it's the sides that are going on this. And we're going to need 4 of these, but you only need 1 file. You just have to stitch it 4 times. And I do remember that I told you there'd be other ways to do in the hoop. So I have one more thing I'll have to remember to show you later. But for this, since we want the step-by-step, here's a side. Click frame. Click running stitch. Bring it just in 1 millimeter from the edge. And apply. Oops, see, this gave me rounded corners, which is my default, and I didn't change it. So I do Command Z or undo. Change that to square. And now I have my outline. I come over to motif line, and this time, I have to go look, it was 80 something. It was 88.9. So I'm going to make this about 87. I could say 87.5. We'll see how far they come in. And the motif, again, this I'm going with the same FAF ones I had, and it's the Maxi Art Stitches, number 13. Makes a nice little quilting look. Apply it, and I know I want 3 of them. It's weird that it gave me this. Ah, see, it's got group, so it thinks it's underlining something in the hoop, and it gives me this whole big thing that might actually throw off my in the hoop measures. Let's just undo that and undo again. Unclick group. See, there's always an easy way to do things. Actually, I should, let me redo first. Redo create motif line. Okay, so that's there. You can double click. Anytime I say undo, Command Z, if you're on a PC and you're like, that command doesn't work, you can undo create motif line. Okay, so double click and you have choices when I'm talking about keyboard. I'd rather see you get in the habit of at least Command C for copy and Command V for paste because it's faster. But if you like to always double click, you have the copy and paste just by tapping your mouse. Okay, so I took group off and now we've got apply. And now you notice it doesn't have the big thing up here because it's not trying to underline something in the hoop. Okay, there we go. Copy, paste. I like the little space. Again, you can line them up. It's completely your choice. What appeals to you? And a space, and we've got a little bit at the top for whatever. So this is your basket side. Now we just need a bottom. So we can go and the bottom, I have to check here, is 3 by 7. So the bottom is 7 wide by 3 high. And again, it's going to be 2 of them. And we come over again, go to the frame, running stitch, 1 millimeter from the edge, ungroup it, and hit apply. Whoops, forgot. I'm hitting Command Z to undo. You'll see I do these little mistakes all the time, and it's no big deal. And now I hit apply. I've got nice and square. I go to motif line, motif, and the motif I want is the Pfaff, and I want their Maxi Art 13. And this was the 7 inches. This was 177, I believe. And it's not grouped. And I hit apply, and there we go. So I'm doing the same quilting on the bottom. And this, oops. You'll see here, see, undo paste. I needed to copy the big one. Command C, Command V. There we go. Come over here, click on that, click the arrow to move it up. See, it went to the top. It will do the outline first, then it will do the quilting. So this is basket bottom. Now there were a few other ways to make quilting in a rectangle, and I wanted to show you those. So we'll do File, New, and it will keep me in this silver level, blank. And we want to go back to 5 inches, give us a bigger. And I'm going to do Window Zoom. And you'll see from over here that I'm still on the silver level. The other thing that you can do is you can play with frames. So if I say again a margin of 1 millimeter, if I go down to the light choices on frames, they are running stitches. And you could also do candle wick if you prefer to have rows of candle wicking, for which you can do in the motif line as well. But classical, contemporary, we have a lot of frames, guys. So if I picked frame, and you have to be careful to pick the rectangle because the square will always stay square, whereas the rectangle you can move around to fit. So I could say, try this one. And I like how that looks. Now, because it has the green, it does mean that it's not stitches yet. So I can do Option Shift to get the same size, and I can bring it in, although those will be tinier. But let's see. I'm gonna make it fit here. And I could have this frame give me the stippling around the edge. I'm gonna undo this one because some of them I layer on each other. That one seemed to, I'm gonna actually just delete it, thank you very much, because you can go over here and you can just say delete. And decorative light, floral. I had done some, here we go, of the lights down here. Not the round, I'm gonna undo that. Let's see, this one. This one would make okay for quilting. This is just a very light running stitch. I can bring it in a little. And then after that, I can come over here and say maybe I want them 8 millimeters apart. And I can just do a couple. And you'll see this would be a kind of square quilting because it's a running stitch. And if I export that, I would want to have the outline, but I'd have to do that separately and then paste it in because it won't give me an outline from the outside edge now. But if I want to compile the inside, I can do it by playing with the different frames. I know I liked how that one looked. I'm going to delete this now. And this one, I will tell you, it was light 1, the rectangles. And I can delete this. Ooh, there it is. And another one that I thought looked okay was this one. And I think I did it as rectangle here. Let's try one and what happens. So we've got a small one. So this one, just bring it down. Don't want it to get too tight. And then we can go 8 millimeter and apply and apply. This one, oops, I did too many. Undo. This one, bring it in. See how they're all grouped there? Yep, see I didn't unclick group, so it's going to change them all at the same time. And I don't like that. I want this to delete. And here I don't want to group. Let's go back to 1. Apply, bring this in a little bit. Don't make it too tight. Center it. Change this to, let's see how it looks at 10. Whoops. That's too far apart for me. What about 6? Still could be closer, say 3. So let's do this one at 3. And you'll see, again, we can hit Command A to get all of them. Kind of bring it up in the hoop. Move some around so they fit. Move them one at a time. And you have a different kind of stitching that would basically be quilting for your fabric. And you can play with these. So you can play with the light stitches in frames. You can also play with the different corner light stitches. I didn't find as much on the end pieces or the swirls. I do find a lot of options once you have motifs, just going rectangle, rectangle. And my personal favorite, which is why I walked you through that step, is doing rows. I like the control it gives me, but I did want to show you that you could also choose frames when you're playing with things and thinking, gosh, I have a square I want to quilt, or I want to quilt around the outside edge of it. If it's a running stitch, and you can check out the stitch, it tells you down here under stitch type when you pick your frame. You know, some of these big ones are satin. satin and applique fabric. You have to get down to the ones that are light to see the running stitches. Okay, and some of these might be running stitch, satin column or running stitch. If we get rid of these, Command A selects all for A, and then delete, and you can see this. Oop. Even though I think give me a running stitch, let's undo that. I think it's, yeah, it's going to be both whether or not I want it. It doesn't change it. So it is only the light ones that are running stitches, and we've just done a double check to be sure. And as I said, if you like, you can do rectangles of, do we have rectangles in Candlewick? No, we have shields. If you want Candlewick, do it as a motif. And on the frames, you only want to choose the ones that are light. It's ungrouped, margin of 1 millimeter. Ah, this is coming as a square. I can't remember if you can. So again, get on your system and play with your frames. What do you like? Do you like these kind of, well, this is a little bit Art Deco, not quite. Angular ones. I'm hitting Command Z for undo. Oops, I moved it, so it's going to make me undo a few times. Do you like something more decorative? That would be a very interesting in tight quilting. Undo. So go through your frames and see what's available to you. Even though these only show the corner, they are doing the whole frame, and you can use them. As long as it's green, it kind of is going to resize and redo the stitches for you. Okay. Bring them in a little bit. I'm just dragging. I just tap a corner and drag, and I have that. Tap a corner and drag. Tap a corner and drag. And you'll see you can have all kinds of choices for making quilting blocks using frames and motif lines. And this is what I wanted to show you. And we have those pieces in. Now I'm going to quit out of this one. Okie dokie, so now we get to put all those pieces together. And you just do a File New, Blank Project, Next, and this time we are doing the Husqvarna Viking 360 by 200 hoop. It actually doesn't matter if you prefer universal or FAF, you can do whatever, but it's the 360 by 200 hoop. If you do not have this size hoop, you would need, if your hoop is too short, you'd need to stitch the bottoms on separately, and if it's too narrow, you'd need to stitch a side on separately. We have it going on a rotated angle, so it's looking long, and we click OK. And now to compile the pieces. So here we have our front and back piece. And what you do is I just hit Command A and everything lights up for me. And that's Command All or Control A and Command C for copy. Then just come over. And there you go. All the pieces come into your new copy. And we want them centered. And right at the top, there we go. And now this piece is the side. And again, Command A, Command C for copy. And you come over and you paste. Put one on one side. Let's see, as I mentioned before, I like them close. And then Command V again, you're going to paste a second time. Since you haven't copied anything, it's still on your clipboard. And there we go. I'll zoom in later to check and make sure they're all where I want them. Excuse me there. And let's see, I've got the side, front, back, and the bottom. Command A lights up everything. So you're not just copying one piece, you've got all of your film strip lit up. Command C for copy. And this works, these keyboard commands are common across many programs. So it's not specific to my Sonnet. And if you have Premiere and True Embroidery and 60 or 4D, they work because they're keyboard commands. Alrighty, and there's the bottom. You want it up and over. The top needs to come up a little bit. And this is what your pieces are going to look like. I'm going to move the top piece. When you move them, make sure you get all of them. I could group them, but I'm just going to nudge a little bit. There we go. Oops, I missed one there. That's pretty entertaining, isn't it? See how I missed that middle piece? There we go. I should have everything now. And again, you never worry about itty-bitty mistakes, because there's always undo and delete. Better if you just let yourself play with things. If it's something you bought, just make a duplicate copy. And that's not quite in the hoop. I've shown it on an earlier video if you ever want to check if it's in the hoop. If you click on preview, it will show you. If it's not in the hoop, it won't open. And I just noticed this one is a little bit lower. Well, it looks pretty good. So there's my pieces, and what we will next be adding is a line across the top to do the stitching of your lining. So this is the basket, B-A-S-K needs lining top. And as you can see, if I do a Command A, everything's the same color, and I can color sort it, and there is no reason not to, because this can be all one piece of fabric. As I mentioned in the earlier videos, if you want the bottom a different fabric, you can do that. You can put in a line and flip and have a different fabric in a different color. But for me, it's easiest, because this is only 8 inches, to just have a piece that fits in the hoop and to have the quilting. So these will all be one color, and for me, they'll match the background of the fabric. And then I'll have a design on it. Okay, and we will do the line next.